Welcome to Clementon Park and Splash World in Clementon, New Jersey. This is one of the oldest operating amusement parks in the United States. Started in 1907 as a trolley park, and it was narrowly saved in 2021 by a Chicago businessman, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Off in the distance here you can see its signature ride, the Hellcat roller coaster, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But this is the main Midway as you enter, and really the attraction here though is this Splash World, which is actually bigger than the amusement park itself. It's a huge water park. You can see the lazy river there, and we'll look at other parts of it as we get further into the park. Here you can see the Larson Ring of Fire standing right next to the giant Ferris wheel. Those are sort of the park's calling cards, right smack on the road in front of the park. Now the Midway is basically what you see in front of you. It goes straight down, and then there are a couple little alleyways off to the left, and we'll explore a couple of those, but they're dead ends for now. And you can see a good part of the train return here to the station with the little hippo, and it's nicely landscaped. And then way in the back there is a restroom, and that's the dead end, and it ends there. So we'll just turn around and go back. So in front of us now you can see the Thunder Drop tower, and over on the left is the Goblet game, and in front of us is a ring toss. So they have standard games. I love this blue building here. It's very retro for cotton candy and drinks. And over here on the left is the CP Huntington train station. Now unfortunately, you'll notice there are really nice cars, but there's no engine. And this was the story in a lot of the park. It was amazing that they were able to reopen this park so quickly after it was declared bankrupt and going to be auctioned off. Gene Staples, a businessman from Chicago, stepped in, as he did for two other classic parks this year. I mean, it was amazing that he did this. And he saved this park from extinction, but they're having trouble getting things back in order so quickly because it was just purchased this spring. So he had a lot of work to do, and they said there was an enormous amount of neglect in the park that they had to correct. So they're still working on it, and they had only opened a short time ago. So you see we passed the guest services there. In front of us is a carousel. Over off to the left is another little path that we'll take a look at, a dead end. Here's the Samba Tower. It's a balloon ride. Behind it you can see a Zamperla kite flyer. And then way in the back there going around is a dragon coaster for the kids. Over here is a nice little gazebo for adults to sit down, so when the kids are riding the rides they can sit in the shade. And then over here on the right is a completely enclosed kiddie land with 6 different kiddie rides, which is a really nice idea. So if there's a little rain or if you want to get out of the sun, there's something for the kids to do in the shade. Now normally you could take that straight through, but they had that blocked off because they were doing work at that end of the park. So this normally wouldn't be a dead end. You could circle around, but the day we were there it was. And over here is Carousel Gifts, the park's gift shop, and it's called Carousel Gifts because there's the carousel. And over here is Hot Shot, another game, and this is the park's largest eatery, which was not open when we were there, and it has places to sit under a tent. And there's the Scrambler and Sea Dragon over on the right. And then right here in front of us is the station for King Neptune's Revenge, which is a really nice flume ride. That also was not open when we were there. And now over on the right is a Tilt-A-Whirl, which was just being assembled. You have to remember this was only the second weekend that the park was open when we were there, after just having been saved that spring. So they were still trying to get things in order for the season. But you can see the structure of Hellcat which is the park's signature roller coaster. That also was not operating. And the reason is that the previous owners had basically left the park a shambles. The track on Hellcat was a mess, so they had to redo that. And most of the rides were in questionable shape, and they got them into shape, but were waiting for the state inspector to come around to certify that the rides were rideable. So even though many of these rides, like King Neptune's Revenge, were ready to go, they still needed the stamp of approval from the state, and that was supposed to come the week after we were at the park. So if we had come a week later, we probably would have seen a lot more stuff running. And in front of us now is Flying Pharaoh, swing ride, which again was being assembled when we were there. And that's pretty much it for the amusement park section. There really isn't a lot going on. When Hellcat is running, though, I'm sure that's going to draw a lot of people. That looks like an intense ride. They used to have a classic John Miller wooden coaster here, and that was torn down several years ago by the previous owners, which is a shame. I think they could have had two really good coasters there. Over here, you can see the big wave pool for Splash World and Splash Playground in the background as well. So this year the management wisely chose to focus on getting Splash World up and running, which they did, and that seems to be a big draw. And for 2022, everything else should be running. So kudos to Gene Staples and the rest of the crew for keeping alive this charming slice of history, Clementon Park.